Laulupidu is the Estonian Song Festival, which is one of the largest choral events in the world. In 1869, the first song festival was held, a celebration of the Estonian Age of Awakening. Now, every 5 years, around 30,000 singers take the stage on the Tallinn Song Festival grounds in honor of their heritage and their national independence. Although this is a time of celebration and joy, this was not always the case for the Estonian people. This gathering of singers and musicians was an act of unity that gave hope to the Estonian people in their fight for independence from the Soviet Union. Estonia was considered a gateway between Russia and Europe, and the land itself was of great value to its surrounding neighbors. In 1939, the Soviets and Nazi Germany signed the non-aggressive Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which ultimately divided and annexed the Baltic states. The Soviets issued military threats and set up military units on the border of Estonia, and eventually the entirety of Estonian independence was lost. In one night, more than 10,000 Estonian people had been taken from their homes and shipped to Siberia for slave labor. More than half of these people never returned. By 1941, Nazi Germany invaded the Soviets' new territory despite initial agreements, and further deportation of the Estonian people began. Many of the slaves were women, elders, and children, with adolescents making up about 25% of the slave labor. The Russian National Military Forces, also named the Red Army, regained control of Estonia in the year of 1944. Death solves all problem. No person, no problem. Joseph Stalin. This was the mindset of the Communist Party that was overtaking and destroying the homes and lives of the Estonian people. The main goal of this communist terror was to prevent any potential resistance and to implement so much fear that the thought of organized political backlash was nil. Even throughout utter chaos and the nation's loss of independence, Estonia still maintained the festivities of Laulupidu. However, through the process of Russification, the Estonian people were no longer allowed to sing in their native language, and only songs in honor of Russia were permitted to be sung. Communist propaganda was used to convince Estonians that the new way of Russia was the ideal utopia. Despite the threat of the Soviet agenda, the Estonian people found one major way of protest. This non-violent revolution began with the singing of one simple song in the year of 1947. At the end of this particular festival, conductor Gustav Renoskes instructed the choir to perform Mu isama on minu arm, or My Fatherland is My Love. This song was performed in the Estonian language, and through it the cries of the Estonian nation were heard. This was the first major protest made by a mass of Estonian people that made clear to the Soviets that they would no longer be silenced. After this profound movement took place, Mu isama on minu arm became Estonia's unofficial national anthem. As the years continued, the choirs of Laulupidu remained restricted. Even during the 100th anniversary of the festival in 1969, the Soviets discouraged Estonian clothing and singing of native songs. But hope remained well kept. In 1985, Mikhail S. Gorbachev became the new leader of the USSR, and with him came a powerful and hopeful reform policy. Perestroika and glasnost were novel concepts implemented in an attempt to restructure the power of the Communist Party. Ultimately, these policies provided greater freedom to the media and religious groups while allowing tolerance of alternative political views. The more time went on, Estonia began speaking publicly about its oppression, playing music and taking the stage in protest of the mistreatment that they as a nation had so long endured. As the communist regime began feeling the resistance of the Estonian people, it was inevitable that the songs of the nation would finally resound louder than ever before. The colors of blue, black, and white were held high above the ideals of the Soviets and the freedom and independence of the Estonian people once again began to take form. On August 20th, 1991, the USSR collapsed and the Estonian nation regained its independence as well as its spirit of unity and strength. Although the Estonian nation is found renewed today, the history of the Estonian people will never be forgotten. The festival of Laulupidu will forever remind the nation, as well as the world, of the struggles and oppression that was overcome. It was not through violent means that changed the lives of the Estonian land. It was the power of alternative morale that brought about such a positive outcome. The teachings of Gandhi illustrate the importance of the means that are used to establish an end. It is true that these means are embedded within our solutions. Gandhi states that neither injury, nor retaliation, nor warding off evil by evil is ever right. Had the Estonians attempted to fight the communist rule by the same means of which they were being oppressed, the result would have further contributed to the downfall of their nation. Gandhi's philosophy of satyagraha demonstrates the power of soul force and the sacredness of love. Gandhi also states that if ill will were the chief motive force, the world would have been destroyed long ago. Socrates was also a satyagrahi who refused to fear death of his body and never gave up what he believed to be the truth. The Estonian people knew they had to fight for their freedom. They refused to be abolished, replaced, and forgotten, so they utilized patience and virtue, and they fought for their place in the world through song and perseverance.